Yeah. So
And I overshot it. I don't know.
yeah, it's probably better that you read ahead, but like now I'm trying to remember the King Piccolo saga. I'm like, fuck, like
It's
I'm
all
like
good.
I'm so invested in the sand shit right now that I'm like, fuck, I read the Piccolo saga like 2 weeks ago. Like, what happened?
All right. Well, what's it called? As far as that went, I went and reread like TM being a badass leading into it
You mean
because
that one time where he Kiko hood?
yeah,
Yeah.
Kiko,
He's
go
a
fuck yourself. Sorry, that's next
mm.
episode. But
Oh yeah. It's like 3 episodes later.
but it's like it's really fun to talk about this like this because you know like everybody out here is aware of Dragon Ball Z. Whether you're in the anime or not, you are aware that it exists. Like
Yes.
orange guy who punches people with spiky hair. Is it blonde or black? Well, if it's blonde, it's probably still
Yeah.
Goku, but it could be Naruto. But if it's black, it's definitely Goku.
Yeah,
So
like Dragon Ball is like comparable to like Star Wars in that way, where like even if you haven't seen it, like everybody's got like a very base knowledge of it just because of how archetypal it's become.
we went and saw what was it, Broly? Dragon Ball Super Broly in theaters.
Yeah,
And
me
my
too.
wife went and she was just like, well, as far as context goes, I know that guys are going to yell a lot.
Hmm.
There's going to be aliens that fight in traditional martial arts that humans do, which is weird because you think they come up. Like one of the points she made coming up to it, which was funny, was like, wouldn't aliens have different ways of fighting depending on where they live? And I was like, that's the interesting thing about martial arts is like that's true of like 50 miles or even
If
less.
it,
Like
yeah,
10
if
miles, you
Toriyama
can
was more
find a different.
creative, then yeah,
But like yeah, you know, like I I firmly believe in the kick and the hard punch
yeah,
are uniform across any martial art.
just punch him really hard.
Yeah, I
That's all you
mean,
got to do.
honestly, as far as Dragon Ball goes, it's more of a narrative. As a everybody says it's a fighting series, and it uses fighting as a vehicle for like character development, and that's
Until it just becomes fighting.
somewhat, yeah, and somewhat like here's where my argument kind of sways from that. So like, well,
Wait, should we
sorry, I don't
introduce the
want.
podcast?
What was that?
Should we introduce the podcast?
Oh, all right. I'll do it
All
this
right.
time.
Okay.
Well, welcome to Manga the Read. Uh, Schnurt. All right, Zach, do it.
You
You
can
do
do
the
it, Cory.
intro.
All right. Hello and welcome to Read the Manga, a podcast about reading manga and comparing it to its anime adaptations. Today we are doing Dragon Ball Part 2, and we are going to be talking about the King Piccolo saga up to the fight with Piccolo's either reincarnation or son. We're going to try and figure out which one that is during this
See,
podcast.
that's an interesting concept right there. Is
Yeah.
because I'm gonna go a little bit outside of the margin that we have given to us, as far as reading wise goes, because it bleeds a little bit into the Saiyan saga.
Yeah, I think we should try and keep
Piccolo.
it as much within the context of the Piccolo saga
So
though.
King
Like
Piccolo. Let's talk about him, I guess,
okay.
as a core character. So let's start from the get
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
So
So wait. Let's give a little introduction to like kind of, where we're at in this episode of Dragon Ball. So
Krillin's
basically,
dead as shit, but we
Krillin's
didn't
dead
see
as
how it
shit.
happened.
Yeah, and Goku goes and chases him. There's this fucking guy named Tambourine, because the instrumental naming scheme, and it turns out that Emperor Pilaf, the villain from the very first arc, has resurrected this ancient demon King Piccolo that even Master Roshi's master could not defeat.
How do you
And now he's
resurrect
trying.
him?
He opened the rice cooker.
A rice cooker, people. Master Roshi's master Mutaito, which if
Yes.
you guys play Xenoverse too, which you should, get his outfit. It's awesome. Mutaito's great.
I was hoping you could play as him in Xenoverse 2. That would be fucking dope.
I'm actually like after doing this reread, thinking about making creative characters that are based around my favorite characters, like trying to make like my version of Tien that I want to see, and my version of Mutaito. I guess characters that aren't seen, like Tien is seen, but not forearm Tien. That's bullshit.
Not what Tien?
Forearm Tien.
Oh, forearm Tien?
Yeah,
What
no.
about one arm? Or they also don't have one arm Tien.
Okay, so here's my thing. We're talking about Piccolo.
Yeah.
He's a significant character. So a lot of people who are probably listening or watching this, I don't know why you'd watch it. Just listen to it. It's better audio wise. But
Yeah, we are not attractive people. Don't look at our faces.
but as far as Piccolo goes, he's a very interesting character. Like from the offset, like you have a character who um now before I start this conversation, I want to preface that I'm going off of like the knowledge and information as a weekly reader would go off of. That's what I'm trying to do as I
Yeah.
read this series is like, oh wow, finding out this revelation about a character would be crazy and then having to wait a week. Oh wow, we get the benefit of binging nowadays,
Yeah.
or just having accessibility. So,
Yeah.
uh it's like you find it like here's the thing that's interesting about the King Piccolo arc is I remember watching it on Toonami and they
Hmm.
like dragged out a lot of the fights with his kids. When in reality it was like
Hmm.
he birthed these offspring and then they just like kind of were cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Like that, like a lot of characters are more just like, hey, this is supposed to be like a feat example.
Hmm.
This character is supposed to be such and such strong. So,
Yeah.
this character beating him. Like it's supposed to be like more of a example of a character having power.
Yeah.
But
Tambourine gets beat by fucking Yajirobe.
Yajirobe, man. See,
Can we
that's
just
that's the
say
thing
that
too. Like
that is the
Yajirobe and
that is
Goku fight. And here I did the
they're
mental
like equal.
gymnastics. I tried to figure it out. I was like, this is a Goku. This is a Goku who just fought while tired a demon from King Piccolo.
Yeah.
He has fought Tien at full strength, you know.
Hmm.
Like this is not
At,
an
at,
easy Goku. This is a
yeah.
tough Goku. And like here's the
At
thing
this point
though.
in the story,
Everybody
Yajirobe
makes
is at
the
Tien's level.
excuse that Goku was tired from the fights prior. But he did
Well,
have time to sit and eat Yajirobe's fish and stated that he was full, which means Goku did a full heal.
yeah,
Every time Goku, so him and Yajirobe fight, and they were equals at that moment.
yeah, your Yajirobe is as strong as Goku at this point. And he's just been living in the woods away from like everyone at the tournament,
And which
which
that's
is
why I
kind of
love this freaking series. Like anybody who has not gone back and read Dragon Ball, like go back and see a time where Goku even stands there and looks at Yajirobe of all people and goes, "Who is this guy? He's just some country bumpkin who's super strong." And it's like copy paste the same thing for Yajirobe thinking about Goku. Like you
yeah.
think of an alternate universe, like the time I got reincarnated as Yamcha kind of shit.
But
Which
that's kind of
people
that's kind of
haven't
the
read
fun.
that.
That's
That is great. That stuff is fun.
But that's kind of the fun part about Dragon Ball during this era, because you have the Tenkaichi Budokai, which is supposed to be like the tournament for all of the strongest guys in the world. But then there are guys that aren't even interested in fighting in the tournament or don't even know about it that are just hanging out that could probably take anybody in that tournament. There are probably a bunch of Yajirobes just hanging out on Earth, like just like in the woods doing their own thing. And that's what's kind of fun about it, that like there's this lazy fat fuck that just wants to sit around and kill like pigs with his sword and eat them, and he's at the same level as a Goku or a Tien at this point, who are considered like the strongest guys in the world, stronger than Master Roshi at this point in the story. So Yajirobe is stronger than Master Roshi at this point in the story.
It's like kind of that funny, like the world is bigger than you think kind of deal. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like you see like very early on, like the main point between Yajirobe and Goku is like Yajirobe is cowardly, like even more beyond Krillin.
Yeah.
So that
Yajirobe
keeps
does
him
not
from
have that
going into the
bravery.
fights to get the EXP boost.
And how dare you say Krillin is cowardly? Krillin is brave as fuck.
Krillin avoided his first fight in the series. We talked about that.
Wait, which was the first fight?
Goku went and assaulted a bunch of police officers, and then Krillin just stood off to the side while Goku did everything. Like,
Well, yeah, well that was kind of more of like shithead early Krillin before he had really like taken to Goku. But like Krillin later in the
that's the
story is
joke
like
though. Is like
Krillin's
Yajirobe is supposed to be like a composite of Krillin and Goku on his own. Like he has natural skill
Mhm.
like Goku. Like he's tough and fights like him. But then he's cowardly like Krillin.
Yeah.
So it's like
But Krillin's not cowardly.
he was.
Okay, at the beginning maybe.
Krillin honestly, like, okay, well, if we're not like I'm gonna be real, Krillin will strategically not engage with opponents if it's not at the right time. There is a
Yeah.
clear difference between sanity and insanity in this series. And many
Yeah.
people argue Goku is fucking stupid or insane
Yeah.
for going into
Yes.
fights that he knows that he will die or will get, even if he wins, gets the attention of the wrong person and he will later die.
Yeah.
Like
Krillin
we
is
as an
brave in the
audience are spoiled by having a protagonist who runs into a burning building and comes out with ice cream. Like,
Yeah.
like that's the kind of deal. Like, I feel like Krillin's a little bit more pragmatic. Like he's more practical with like his engagements, and I feel like Yajirobe is like
Yajirobe
he's
would
a
rather not
composite
engage
of
at
the
all.
two at the time for writing because like one, you needed a character that needed to be able to be at that same level of Goku in order to keep the plot going along. I mean, because if you didn't add a new character in that wasn't that same level, then they wouldn't be able to survive into the fight with Vegeta and shit. You know,
But
like
I also just think that Toriyama, I could just imagine with Toriyama's personality, he just likes the idea of a character like Yajirobe. Because if you think about what's required of the plot, you basically need somebody to help and feed Goku after he's beaten by Tambourine. You need somebody in the woods that's going to help and feed him. And Goku could have easily beaten Tambourine after he was full, but like so it could have easily been just like some random person that like had no battle power that just happened to live in the woods and help Goku. But I think Toriyama just likes the idea of this like fat lazy swordsman that lives in the woods that just happens to be as strong as the main character. Like I think Toriyama's just playful like that. He just knew that adding someone like Yajirobe would just add a like a little pinch of flavor to the series.
and that's what's
Yajirobe,
scary is like Yajirobe by that point, like as far as tiers go, was like if you read this on a weekly basis, you're just like, Yajirobe could take on Krillin, or even Master Roshi depowered, or even Tao Pai Pai. Like,
yeah,
like
Yajirobe could have beaten Tao Pai
I
Pai.
honestly want to create like a weighted table. Like
Mhm.
Yajirobe at this era could have taken on Goku at this era, this era, this era. Like a weighted table where it goes like, like Yajirobe, peak Yajirobe probably couldn't take Piccolo as weakest form, but he probably could have been able to take Tien,
Yeah,
in his first fight with Goku.
yeah.
Like, fuck yeah, I'll
Yeah,
just cut you in half.
I think Tien's craftier and has a stronger will. So I think in an actual long term fight, I think Tien would have beaten Yajirobe, but
that's
I think he would have given Tien a tough fight.
that's what gets me though, is like in this reread, I've been talking to Destiny a lot about it, and I'm just like, it really bothers me how like benched Tien got. Like, I'm not a fanboy, but like Tien was a character that like unlike like Yamcha tried, but it's like you see Yamcha use a Kamehameha and nothing stated. It's just kind of assumed like, well, I saw Goku use it enough times or whatever. Like nothing stated.
Yeah.
You have to fill in the spaces. Like
Well,
maybe he went.
he was being trained by Roshi at that point when he used that Kamehameha. He was a turtle school guy. So he kind of used the same thing that Goku did, where Goku just kind of figured it out while he was training with Roshi.
Yeah.
But you know what's cool though? Like a cool piece of trivia. Yamcha used the Kamehameha before Krillin did.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy to think about because you would think that you always think of Yamcha as being weaker than Krillin, but the fact that he was the guy that used the Kamehameha on Tien before Krillin got the idea to use it against
But whose
who did he
move
fight?
got stolen more than anybody else's?
Tien's.
Okay, second smallest. Krillin's.
And
Krillin, honestly, by usage, I'd say
Destructo
Krillin's
Disc.
move, the Destructo Disc, got stolen more. Like, Vegeta uses a Destructo Disc on Gohan after Krillin used it.
But
And,
did Vegeta steal it or did he already know it?
No. Because obviously, during the fight with Nappa, so here's a weird way of thinking about this. So during the fight with Nappa, Vegeta told Nappa to duck after Krillin condensed and discified a ki blast.
Yes.
So what we're assuming is like Krillin created a normal ki blast and then turned it into a saw or disc or whatever, a slicey thing, and threw it.
Yeah.
So either Vegeta,
a disc of destruction, if you will.
That'd be a good name.
Yeah, maybe like shorten it to like Destructo Disc.
Destructo Disc. But essentially, like, either Vegeta was aware, like, I guess because he had some. I don't know.
So here's my argument.
This is where things get muddied up, though, is because
I know, because I have
you could assume that like Vegeta either dealt with the move before, or he just has such a latent like ability to gauge like what moves happen and do what in context that like just like Goku, like he has a PhD in fighting like Goku does, to where he's like, if you let that disc hit you, it'll kill you. Sorry, I just want to finish that.
I know. But I think if we do Occam's razor and look at kind of the simplest solution, I think the fact that he told Nappa to duck when he threw the fucking disc means that he probably already knew that technique and knew what it was capable of. Like the fact that he just was able to do it so casually against the Uzaru Gohan, like I'm pretty sure that Vegeta had already been familiar with that technique and already knew it. Like he didn't, and I think what Krillin was doing was kind of a rudimentary version, because the fact that Krillin held his hand up and had to create the ki blast first and then form it, whereas Vegeta was able to just kind of swipe and just do it, you know? Like, I just think it was probably a common technique, and Vegeta realized that an Earthling had figured it out and was like, oh shit, Nappa, dodge that shit. But we are talking an episode in advance. We got to keep it King Piccolo.
How dare you? This has officially become a Krillin respect thread episode.
From the guy that called him a coward.
He's a coward, but cowards live longer.
He's not a coward. He's brave as fuck. He's scared, but he's brave. Steps up anyway.
I think your definition of a coward is like completely skewed.
A definition of a coward is somebody that lets their fear take them and lets it stop them from acting. That's not what Krillin is.
It stops him from acting. Then he enacts a plan, and then he enacts bravery. And I think that's smarter than just jumping into bravery. No, but I'm not saying cowardly is a negative thing.
Well, Goku's not brave, because to be brave, you have to have fear first.
He's insane.
Yeah, so he's not brave. He's just crazy.
Also,
Krillin's brave.
Also, my opinion on Goku has changed significantly through this reread. Honestly, he is a good dad.
Really? Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Oh yeah, he's not even. Damn it, Zach.
Keeping it green today.
All right. So we're talking about Krillin is dead.
Yes. Goku goes to fight King Piccolo. King Piccolo whoops his ass, and then King Piccolo gets all of the fucking Dragon Balls, resurrects the dragon, and then wishes for eternal youth.
The cat and mouse between the Piccolo gang and the Goku gang is one of my favorite things. Like the way Toriyama, like the generalization you made, like to be able to put all the specifics into it, like the only author who could do better than that is Oda. Like all the little tiny bits, like we gotta get the Dragon Balls together, we gotta deal with Piccolo, like he's trying to get the Dragon Balls, like it's like a cat and
Well,
mouse
sure.
game. And then it's like we need to get
Well,
Master
I don't think
Roshi
it's
out here, and I'm gonna hide information from these characters and this and that. Like honestly,
well. I don't
early
think
late
it's cat.
Dragon Ball was very strategic, not quite Death Note strategic, but like pretty strategic. Like with Master Roshi being the mastermind behind the plan, like at
Well,
least as
the interesting thing about this arc of Dragon Ball is because, like, when you look at the Red Ribbon arc, that is very much a cat and mouse thing. That is them chasing Goku and Goku exceeding their expectations and beating them.
well, it's more Tom and
Because
Jerry than Cat and
yeah,
Mouse.
yeah. So it's well, that is that was a cat and a mouse.
Technically the truth, but Tom and Jerry versus a normal cat and mouse is very different. Like it's
Anyway,
like
but
Jerry,
let me get to
like
my.
Tom pulls out like a machine gun, and Jerry just like stands there and takes it and goes like, "All right, well, it's done."
Let me get to my point. So this kind of shows why Goku's characterization, like, it kind of shows one of the big flaws in his personality. That when he found out Krillin was dead, he reacted emotionally and went to go fight the enemy himself, and didn't wait for the rest of his people, like the rest of his crew. He just left everyone in the dust, even though he had Roshi, Tien, Chaozu, like capable people around him. Maybe not Chaozu, but so he goes through, and what's happening with the King Piccolo thing is that you have two separate groups that are trying to fight King Piccolo. You have Roshi and Tien in their group, and then you have Goku basically going off on his own. Whereas they probably would have had more success. I mean, it all worked out in the long run because Goku beats King Piccolo, but they might have had more success had Goku fucking tempered his rage a little bit, like hung out and like tried to form a plan, like do more of what Krillin would probably have done, you know? And I feel like that's kind of interesting that, like, the two groups don't really interact very much in the King Piccolo arc. Like, Roshi and Tien are kind of doing their own thing with the Mafuba and the Demon Containment Wave, and Goku's kind of doing his own thing of like trying to get the like Super Divine Water to become more powerful. Whereas, like, if they had actually reconvened and combined those plans together, because for most of this arc they don't know where Goku is. He just kind of ran off. And this is before they can all sense ki and stuff. So it's like they're just like, okay, he's fucking off somewhere. We have to figure out like what
Well,
we're
they
gonna
thought
do
he was
ourselves to
dead,
beat King Piccolo. Yeah, they thought he was dead. So it's like the fact that like the group was so splintered, I feel like it made the King
but
Piccolo fight a little bit
here's the
harder than it
thing,
needed to
though.
be.
Like
Huh.
in Goku's mind, from what Toriyama was putting out there, he essentially was like, I've learned from Master Roshi. Master Roshi, long before this point, told him, I have taught you all I could do. The same to Krillin.
Mm-hmm.
And, not to skip ahead parts, but a common thing is Goku ends up learning everything his masters can give him, because as big of his appetite for food, he has an appetite for knowledge for combat.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially going back to Roshi would be pointless. So he went back to Karen because he figured
Yeah.
Karen could train him more
Yeah.
for preparation. And then, it becomes like you should learn under Kami,
Mm-hmm.
the next best guy to train. So,
Yeah.
and then Kami becomes, King Kai, and King Kai
Which
becomes
can I say something?
what?
I just love that in the manga translations they don't call him Kami yet. They don't use the Japanese word for god. They just call him God. So when Goku is like, after the Piccolo fight, goes off to train with Kami, and then like talks to his friends to let him know that like, hey, everything's cool, I'm not dead. They're like, where are you? And he's like, just training with God. And they're like, what? Like, what the hell? And the fact that it just takes them aback, they're like, wait, so Goku, so they have to, just imagining it from the perspective of Roshi, Tien, Yamcha, all of them. They're sitting there like, okay, so God exists. Goku is alive. Goku found God somehow, and Goku is now training martial arts with God. And the fact that they had to process all of that information in about 2.5 minutes as Goku was explaining to them is just another great bit of comedy by Akira
It just
Toriyama.
bothers me that we're not going further into this series, because like I read up to the Cell Saga, and like
Mhm.
one of my favorite jokes was like when the Saiyans reveal Piccolo is an alien, and it cuts to Kami and Popo talking, and Popo's like, "Are you all right?" And Kami's just like, "I've always had a strange feeling about my origin. My antennas kind of made me think I might be an alien." Like the antennas
So
were what gave him
I
like
it's
he
like
would
I
sit
didn't
there
think
and
that
think
deep
about
into
like
it.
his antennas, like, well, I have to be an
It's like, why
alien
do I
because I
have
have
these?
antennas for some reason. I'm like, not the green, you can stretch your arms and barf out egg. What? It's the antennas.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
okay. So what I love about the King Piccolo arc is like my favorite parts are like the strategy that Toriyama takes to give the characters motivation to put them in certain situations, because it's like being a proper DM and you have these specific characters. So like we start with like Krillin's death, and we have to motivate Goku to be powerful enough to take on Piccolo. So we send him to, you know, Karen. He drinks the water, he dies for 3 days, he comes back, you know, like he's Jesus. You know, Goku's Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, essentially like he goes and fights King Piccolo, and you know, that's a pretty funny fight. You know, he ends up winning it by
Oh yeah, that fight was great when he
just
fucking like literally. Yeah, well, yeah, the fact that he literally like
my head will
all of his
penetrate you.
well, he uses his fist, but yeah, he literally like
Yeah.
all of his limbs are incapacitated, and he just has the fucking savvy. Like that's another thing that I love about Goku, that like he's not given credit for how crafty of a fighter he is, because Piccolo had basically had that fight won, and then Goku's just like, if I just launch myself with a Kamehameha and just fucking fist him as hard as I can, then I'll win the fight. Just blow a hole through him.
That's what
But yeah,
got
no,
me.
it's
Like reading that, I was like, you could not quite an ass pull, but it was more like Goku like spent everything in his tank for that. That's the only canon.
yeah, and the fact that like it kind of implied that he was unlocking some of his like latent monkey powers, because
Yeah.
it had the whole image of the Uzuru as he was like going through, and
Which
it's not like
later with Guru he says everybody has Latin powers that they're not aware of, so Goku
yeah,
could have tapped into that some
yeah,
weird
could
way.
have tapped into something, yeah, but yeah, and then
I
so
just love
he
that
fucking
touch though. Like it was like his primal instinctual rage against Piccolo with his condescending worldly views just like
yeah,
clashing.
and it was before we even knew he was a Saiyan.
Yeah. And before Piccolo knew he was a slug.
Yes, monkey versus slug, the ultimate matchup.
So he punches through him, and somehow, even though his stomach was needed to make children, he barfs out an egg and it becomes a
Barfs
little
out an egg.
Gohan sized Piccolo.
I want to think that it was already in his stomach and he started barfing it before Goku even fucking
No,
punched him. Like it was already like in his chest
that would
cavity.
actually be a good idea. Is like if Piccolo always had that as like a passive ability, is like before I die, I barf out an egg. That's pretty
Yeah,
set
and
up.
it just becomes another Piccolo.
Because like here's the thing, when Piccolo believes he won against Goku and
Mhm.
avenged Piccolo. He so when Piccolo comes out of the egg, he goes, "I will avenge you, father."
Yes.
And
Yes.
so there's kind of a like this creature that is supposed to be a like copy, like King Piccolo copy and pasted himself into an egg and barfed it out. Is what the statement was. And
So,
but here's the thing though. He barfs out this egg that he says is supposed to be an exact carbon copy of himself,
mhm.
and it comes out and it says, "I will avenge you, father." But then even later, when he's grown up, he says, "I, the great Demon King Piccolo, have avenged the great Demon King Piccolo." So he has this kind of sense of self where I think they are two different entities, but they both believe to be encompassing the same idea of the same entity that is Great Demon King Piccolo. And even Kami
So,
states that even though this Piccolo is a copy of the last Piccolo, and he stated many times Piccolo Jr., as the fandom calls him, but the manga doesn't call him that. It's just Piccolo.
mhm.
Um, he,
he enters the tournament as Demon Jr.
I,
The Junior.
I don't even pay attention to that. That's like a minor detail.
Yeah, but it's important because it gives you an idea of how he views himself.
But okay, I guess that makes sense. But I mean, like, it's just interesting to think about. Like, so if we were to go up until the end of Z,
Mhm.
with Piccolo being the Demon King Piccolo, that would
Yeah,
mean you'd have a character who, since Kami and the original Namekian split and it became Kami and Piccolo, this evil asshole becoming the one who would be able to jump in front of Nappa's attack and save Gohan. And I
mhm.
think that's crazy. Like, I think he is and isn't. I That's why I think he copy and pasted his entire entity onto this new self, but this new self was young. It was a child, so it still had room to learn and develop. So I
Mhm.
think this Demon King Piccolo isn't jaded because they straight up say that the Namekian that went to Earth, or I'm sorry, we're jumping a bit, but the Namekian that went to Earth got corrupted by evil humans along the way through their medium.
Yes.
So what I think is crazy is, like, if you take that into context, like maybe it was like, you know because the main thing that I took about rereading this was I've genuinely been confused about whether Piccolo is just a symbol tambourine, kind of just like I was a created character made in the image of Demon King Piccolo,
Can I
or
make
if
two
he
points?
actually is supposed to be like Demon King Piccolo is like, I need you to be almost 100% a copy of me, but the 1% that was different was the fact that he would be born young and be open to new ideas, such as like
Because
raising his
I,
enemies good.
yeah, and I want to respond to you. I have two main points on it.
Okay.
So, point number one, uh, I was actually thinking about like human genetics and how that works, because if you think about it, when you have a kid, that's a clone. That is a genetic copy. It's a genetic copy of two people, but you can go and clone your dog. You can create a genetic copy of your dog artificially. But a lot of people that will go and do that, like rich people that like can afford to do that, will be surprised that their new dog has a different personality than their old one, even though it was supposed to be an exact genetic copy. And that's because even though something's a genetic copy, there are certain X factors that you can't really account for that's going to influence that dog's
Very,
personality.
very easily, one of them would be revealing to the clone that it's a clone. That's like
Yeah.
realization that you are just a copy of something that matters.
Yeah, but that's all cloning is. It's just
No,
creating a
no, but
genetic
I
copy
mean,
of.
like, the biggest difference between a clone and not a clone would be the realization that you are a clone.
Sure,
Like,
but
like
I'm not ready to get into that. I
that's.
just want to finish my points.
Oh, no, no, I'm
Like,
just saying, like,
yeah,
that would be one thing that you could be like, you wouldn't understand. You're not a clone.
but you also can't explain that to a German Shepherd. But my point is, so basically, there are other X there are other X factors that influence whether something has the same personality. Like just because you create a genetic copy of something doesn't mean it's gonna have the same personality as the last thing. I know how cloning in media is portrayed as like an exact copy, but that's not how it works in real life. Because we've actually experimented with cloning. But so basically, Piccolo kind of comes out as like his own fully formed being, even though he might be an exact genetic copy of his predecessor, and he might have some vague memories of his past life. He's going to have completely different experiences and grow up into a different being than that predecessor, even though he's trying to carry on the will
Yeah, it's kind of like that
of the
trope
previous
where,
Demon King.
like, what if I could
But
go back to being in high school again? And it's like Piccolo did the what if I died and just got reborn again the same fucking time? Like,
yeah, But my second point is kind of going to like, and again, jumping ahead a little bit because I've read the Sand Saga and shit, but going into like
You
Namekian
skipped ahead. How
physiology.
dare
Yeah, I know. Fuck you, Mr. Cell Saga.
What?
But
Who's Cell?
I don't know. I think he's some slug person slash bug person slash android slash. He drinks people. He fucking drinks people. That's what he does.
See me drink that guy.
But
Pretty awesome, right? It's hard not to
anyway,
talk
so
about Team 4-Star during this. Now that we're in Dragon Ball Z almost territory. Like, I'm just like,
yeah.
yeah,
So my second point is going to be looking at Namekian physiology and looking at kind of how they structure their society. It seems like for them the individual isn't really quite as important. Like they have more of a collectivist mindset, and that even goes to the way they reproduce, how they essentially just make copies of themselves rather than having this whole sexual reproduction phase, like how Guru created the entire Namek population in the Namek saga. Like all 105 of those guys were just like eggs birthed out of him. And how the fact that even though the Demon King Piccolo died, because his son lived, Kami was also able to live. So in some ways, that second Piccolo that was created by Demon King Piccolo is still part of that
yeah.
same
I
being
love
that
all
Kami
the
originally
like.
was. But I'm not done.
Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, so basically, fuck. Sorry, I like had an essay written in my head that I'm trying to get out.
Oh, good.
But so basically, fuck. Hold on. You threw me off, Corey. But yeah, so even though the Demon King Piccolo gave birth to this like Piccolo thing, this next Piccolo that might be a clone, might be his son. Uh, Even though that original Demon King Piccolo is dead, Kami can still live because this, like it or not, this thing that the Demon King Piccolo created is still part of like whatever Kami originally was. And getting into the later aspects of the Namek saga, we see Nameks are always, they're splitting apart, they're combining together. Nameks can combine with other Nameks to make other Nameks more powerful. It almost feels as if the entire Namek race is just one being spread into multiple different physical bodies. And even though they all have their same personalities, they can all combine with each other or split from each other. Like the Namekian species is weird in that way, to where it's like they're all kind of this same collectivist entity, but they're also their own people. And they just work very differently than how humans do, just based on what we can extrapolate from what we see in the manga. So I think that might be a part of it, of why the Piccolo identity crisis thing is so weird, of like, is he a reincarnation or is he a son? Like, he might be both.
Yeah, I mean, like Dende says that Piccolo looks like Nail,
Mm-hmm.
and Piccolo goes, Dende, take cover. Dende's like, how does he know who I am? I've never met this man before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know.
And how Piccolo would go to like live in places that kind of
See,
resemble Namek because of his instinctual like desire to be back at Namek. Like there's that
yeah, like
inherited thing.
deserts and wastelands are just very similar to his home planet because when Kami's core being left Namek, and from what Popo said, Kami's family,
Mm-hmm.
his parents, which I'm assuming because there's the Dragon Clan and the not Dragon Clan in Nameks, and when you find out their birthingness,
Yeah.
that Guru is a non-Dragon Clan parent,
Yeah.
and they said Nail's the only warrior type on their planet, but only Dragon Clans can make Dragon Balls. It's like weird.
Yeah.
But they apparently, when Kami split, he became a Dragon Clan, and Piccolo retained, like, the fighting clan or whatever, something like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah. Some
it's
weird shit
very
like that.
interesting because, like, from the story Popo said, it was like Kami was sent to Earth, kind of like Superman was, more so than
Yeah.
like the Saiyan thing is that Goku was sent to Earth to invade it, and then Planet Vegeta got blown up or whatever. And then
Yeah.
but with Piccolo and Kami, it's like Kami was like core Kami or Piccolo was sent there. That's why it's interesting. Like reading this again, like I told my wife, I was like, reading this again, like the author is writing with the characters having this kind of naive like hopefulness with the
Mhm.
stakes going on, and then like the stakes get raised as it goes. So like
Yeah.
rereading it, it's like Kami going and telling like, look, like just it's fine if you kill me, or if you kill Piccolo, you could just bring me back with the Dragon Balls. And then later you find out if Kami or Piccolo dies, Dragon Balls don't work. So
Yeah.
it's like really interesting during the Piccolo saga to see that like a lot of their hopes and things that they banked on, like, actually wouldn't have worked if they did actually bank on them, like I don't know.
Yeah.
They're pretty lucky. I still
Yeah.
love the fact that it's like a freaking rice cooker was the ultimate
Yeah.
sealing
The thing that he
device.
sealed him in.
Yeah.
And then what was it later? He tried to seal him in like a vase or some shit. What did Kami try and seal him in? It was some
Kami tried to
like it was
seal
like
him in a
it was
little
like a small
bottle.
little, yeah, like a
Like a
little small
little
bottle.
like a
Yeah, a
I
little
guess like a
corked bottle.
perfume bottle or little vial. A vial.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, a vial. Huh. Why don't that's the thing with the Mafu Ba, where like he tries to seal him and misses. Do you think it would be easier if you just got a much bigger container?
You know what I think would be easier?
Like what if you got like a 3 gallon jug with a lid on it, and then it's like it's hard to miss that, you know?
I think the thing is though, the smaller the container, like the harder it is for him to get out. That'd be like my
We just gotta open the container.
that'd be my canonical restraint to it. But I also think it's just hilarious as all hell that it was a rice cooker originally. He was like, "What do we have?"
Yeah, just something.
Yeah,
But it's also
but
like
I love
I
how
feel
serious the situation can be. Like the world will end or die over whether a guy can be trapped in a rice cooker. You tell that to
yeah.
someone, they think the series is either amazing or trash.
I,
And like that's
I
what I
mean
love
that's
about Toriyama. Like every end of the like every time he would do his author comments or corners, like Oda
yeah.
does his
Yeah.
SBSs. Like I
Yeah.
loved it. Like my favorite one was when he had the ice bag on his head and he's like, "I'm sorry, this chapter looked really bad. I'm
Yeah.
really sick." But in my defense, I'm really sick. But that's no excuse. So this end of chapter picture that kind of sucks. That's because I'm sick. The story might kind of suck, but I'm sick. Next chapter will be way better. I'm sorry.
Which I mean, the art at this point is still really consistent. Like it's like
Oh yeah.
he doesn't really start to slip up as far as artwork goes until the Boo Saga.
And what I
Like every
appreciate is like his movement. Like if he has a character punch a character or kick a character, no matter how far they go, he knows what direction they go and he knows how to direct the camera, I guess.
yeah. Well, that's he's such a master of paneling in that way, and that's why I like kind of later on when he kind of added the auras around people,
Yeah.
and you would see the tracers of the auras. So you knew exactly which directions the characters were moving. He would have a very like clever shorthand with that of like using the fucking tracer auras to figure out exactly which character is moving in relation to which other character. It was actually kind of genius on his part and really defined like shonen battle scenes. Like he,
Oh,
he just
most
did a
definitely.
fantastic.
I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like even just like seeing auras and JoJo's, like you have to
Yeah.
give a little bit of a credit. Like
A
maybe
lot of
maybe
credit to Toriyama.
yeah, for real. Like it's also like the you could even though the sound effects are like whack,
Yeah.
like whack, but the way he draws it and the sound effect just comes off and the way the character's like fist looks on another character's face
Mhm.
and the momentum, like you know like Yusuke Murata, the guy who does what was it, Ice Shield 21 and One Punch
Mhm.
Man redraw,
Mhm.
like his art is probably another great example of like momentum and like physics being felt
Yeah.
through art. Like Mura, when Guts would swing his sword and stuff, like you could feel the weight of scenes. Like I feel like Dragon Ball has a lot of that. Like,
Yeah.
for a series that is like I consider it like overrated and underrated at the same time. Like it's one of those series where it's like it's very well known, and there are a lot of things that are overlooked, and one of them is like I love the weight and feel that Toriyama puts into certain scenes. Like, one of his favorite things to do is have a character just shoot like a cannonball and headbutt somebody.
Yeah.
And you get that, like you can feel it in the panel. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like it's great, and I like that he had the good sense in the later part of the Piccolo arc to essentially kind of end the whole chibi thing and like actually age his characters a little bit and make them like make their bodies more suitable for fighting. Like he really like as the
well, I
series
mean,
was
there was
getting a
a
little bit more.
3 year, what was it, a 3 year time skip between Goku seeing them? Like, he was 15 when he fought old Piccolo, and there was like a 2 to 3 year time skip when he
It was a
came.
3 year time skip,
Yeah,
but
so
yeah,
he was 18. So like
yeah, which
Toriyama
it
had
wouldn't make.
no reason to keep him chibi.
Well, yeah, but the fact that he probably kept him chibi a little bit longer than he should have, because it doesn't really make sense for Goku to be like 15, 16 years old and look the way he did.
Well,
But
and it also
otherwise, he would
keeps the
just have like,
innocence with the character.
yeah, and I
He's an
think
innocent country bumpkin,
as
and like,
as the as the series was getting more and more focused on battles, he needed to kind of like make the characters' bodies reflect that a little bit more and create character models that would be more suited to an action fighting manga, like a manga that was primarily fighting.
keep in
Whereas
mind,
early
like
Dragon
he did
Ball,
this way better than freaking uh, what's his name, Araki. Because like in JoJo's like part 4, you'd have like a character come in who like in the anime is Koichi size, but
yeah,
in the manga he was introduced like Jotaro sized.
okay,
And then, like, after a few chapters and being beat, he would be reintroduced after an arc change to be Koichi size. Like, so that's
yeah,
like a drastic art change. That'd be like somebody like it'd be like if Tien was made into Krillin after being beat by Goku.
huh,
That
yeah,
happens in
that would
JoJo the manga. Same with
wait,
like
which,
Josuke looks like Jotaro or Jonathan or Joseph in the
uh-huh,
manga in part 4.
yeah,
And that's why I'm pointing this out. Araki did his like Arnold Schwarzenegger art between parts 1 through 3. Part
yeah,
4 is like coming out of the pool of part 3. And he's still
yeah,
drying himself off, but like he's still got that art going. So the
yeah,
anime that we get of Diamond is Unbreakable is his at the end of drawing part 4. But if you read part
okay,
4, it looks like you have like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Josuke, and super tiny Koichi, and then like
yeah.
a bad guy who's like Arnold Schwarzenegger bad guy in the anime is like Koichi size, like Krillin size. But it's like,
God, that's weird.
yeah, that's why I think it's funny because like Toriyama at least like addressed it in a reasonable way. People will
Yeah,
argue like
yeah,
Dragon Ball Z is ridiculous in certain regards, and I'm like, dude, I love Araki's artwork. He's an amazing artist, but like you gotta admit, like part 4 when he did an art change throughout it,
hmm,
which isn't bad, but it's like, people give Toriyama crap like, why is Goten and Trunks still so tiny looking? And it's like, because like Goku looked tiny up until 15 years old.
yeah,
And Gohan looked tiny and got older quicker, but he also grew up with a tail. And his genetics were different than Goten and Trunks. Maybe
yeah.
Goten and Trunks' genetics are different. Like,
I I think so. I think that's part of it. I think there might be a genetic thing with Sans, and this is just all retconning, but like it might be that Sans just like hit puberty a little bit later than humans.
My
That's an
thing,
entirely
my thing is
reasonable
like the
assumption.
artist wants to draw a kid version of Goku running around with
Hmm.
Vegeta's son and having fun. I think that's wholesome as all hell. And
Yeah,
the fact that they're
because
more willing to team up and come up with fun moves to do shows that they have progressed way more than their fathers did. But like that's the thing. Like I've been keeping up with Super, and I've been rereading. And like honestly, I consider this podcast more the Piccolo podcast for me because it's been mostly like Piccolo when he's old and an asshole. Then he's
yeah,
young. Now he's training Goku's son. Now he's dead and trying to get to his home planet to help out his friends. Like I read a decent bit. I thought we were
Yeah.
going up to the Frieza saga. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. No, you fucking didn't.
No,
I
I
told
did.
you
I
exactly
did.
where
I
I did.
thought we were going to do Cell and
No,
Majin Buu as like the last stint to it, but all right.
you did not think that, Corey. Come on.
Well, so
Okay, just
it's been so like here's the thing that like Piccolo is like one of my favorite characters from a standpoint. So seeing him be a bad guy again, like how did you feel about that? Like how like when he's introduced, he's pretty just mediocre at best bad guy. Like I just want to be king of the world and fuck everybody
yeah,
else. You know, like
yeah.
I don't care.
Well, I guess I'm less interested in how King Piccolo is portrayed and more interested in how Piccolo Jr. is portrayed.
Yeah, okay.
And that's like I think the tournament arc is interesting because in the tournament arc, like you can tell something's different. Like he's got a different design and stuff, and he doesn't really seem quite as vicious as his father did, even though he's like obviously evil and obviously wants to kill Goku. But what's kind of interesting, I think this was probably just some retconning on the part of Akira Toriyama so that he could change Piccolo's character. But later on in the Sand Saga in Dragon Ball Z, when Gohan's getting trained by Piccolo, he kind of tells him like, "Hey, I just wanted you to know that like my dad talked about you and he said that he doesn't really think you're that evil, and I don't think you're that evil either." And obviously there's nothing in this Piccolo arc to suggest that, but like it's kind of interesting kind of looking at it through that lens and being like, huh, like I guess you can kind of find it in the tournament of like Piccolo or like it was probably more just Goku's nature of just kind of sensing that like there was something different about Piccolo and he wasn't quite as evil as he was in his original form, you know? And I think that's kind of interesting and really shows sort of like how the children don't really have to repeat the sins of their parents a little bit. And I feel like that's a big theme in Dragon Ball of like redemption is possible. You can become a different person than you were. You can choose who you want to be and you can see the light, which I think is really cool. How for so many villains, Toriyama doesn't keep them as villains. Like so many villains in Dragon Ball end up being kind of won over by Goku's perspective and softening up their personalities a little bit as the show goes on and eventually becoming allies, which we'll see exemplified even more in a certain spiky haired bad guy that we'll talk about in the next episode.
Yes. And on that, I think we should end this episode because it's almost an hour.
Yeah, we're getting there. This was actually, we talked less than the last one, surprisingly. But
Well, I need to
so
go to
for
the
the
bathroom.
okay, so can I before you go, can I kind of plug the next episode a little bit before you
Yeah.
run away from me? So for the next one I'm thinking I was gonna do San and then Frieza, but for the next podcast, I think we should just wipe out San and Frieza in one shot because the more you read it, the more the San saga feels like a prelude to the Frieza saga. So we'll do San all the way through Frieza,
I
and
think
then
that works really well. I feel like it was really hard for me to stop reading Dragon Ball, like
yeah,
into the Cell Saga. Like I felt like the beginning of the Cell Saga just it just like it's like butter, just spreading.
mhm,
Like as you look at like if you look up, it's like flying in an airplane. You can see the arcs divided up like
mhm,
fields, but like
yeah,
when you are driving down the road, it just
mhm,
flows. It
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so next week we're going to be talking about the San and Frieza saga. Until then, make sure to watch the Dragon Ball anime and more importantly, read the manga.
Don't hang up, Zach. I'll be right back.
Okay.